Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hope. My name is Tammy Lynn Connors, and this is my podcast and YouTube channel, helping other people evolve. Today, I have my beautiful friend, Amber Mainquist, on with me today. How are you today, Amber?
I'm doing really well. How are you, girl?
Fantastic. I'm so excited for you all to hear Amber's stories. I met Amber through a business that we do together, and it's just been a great journey. Geez, it's been 8 years now, almost, Amber, that I joined this company and this business, and been life-changing every moment of it. And the biggest thing for me with this company I talk about a lot is the lives that I've met, the people that I've met, the friendships that I've met, the family that I call you all now. So I'm super excited to have you on here and blessed to have you on here with me today. So for those of you that don't know what Hope is, what I do is I interview people that have unfortunately been through a struggle, but fortunately have gotten to a strength. And my vision and mission here is just to help somebody that's at home feeling like they're struggling all by themselves, just to let them know that they're not alone in their struggles. Our struggles might not be exactly the same, but to hear that somebody went through something and they came out of it with a strength will help you hopefully get out of bed that day and maybe walk outside and just take a deep breath and be like, thank you, God, that I'm here. So I'm super excited for Amber to share with us, some of her struggles she's been through and the strength that she's gotten to. This woman is absolutely one of my favorite people on the planet Earth. She's always happy. She's like that cheerleader. She's like that ray of light wherever you're at, Amber. And I love how you live out loud and you don't shy from who you are. And I'm probably pretty sure that it always hasn't been like that.
It's funny because just you saying that, I have always been the cheerleader, right? I've always been, it didn't matter what was going on in my life, even as a little girl, that was just me. But inside, I've always been an insecure person, full of self-doubt. There was zero confidence, but I was always in the middle of all the things that's just who I am. And so even when, things at home, I came from a home of domestic violence. There's a lot to that. But in coming from my real dad, abandonment issues, and then with my stepdad, domestic violence with my mom. So when you put all that in, when I was outside of my house, I was just seeking for normalcy. And I would always hang out at all my friends' houses and sometimes eat dinner with their families. And I was like, this is like the Brady Bunch, right? This is the normal family, the normal home. And never really realized that that's when I started believing the lies. That's where the enemy started putting the lies that I started to believe, right? Of everybody else is normal. Everybody else has this picture perfect life. Everybody else has parents that love them. Nobody I was older, did I realize, it says my connection is unstable. Not until I was older did I realize that was not true. Not everybody was growing up in a domestic violence home, but their home wasn't always hunky-dory all the time.
Right.
Right. And so I think that little girl always wanting to make everybody happy, always wanting to be happy, to be loved, to be wanted in a room, things like that. So that's what led to who I am, I guess, on the cheerleader side. Even when I'm on my lowest day, Tammy, if I was having the worst day ever, if you called me, I'd be like, girl, you can do it. I just, because how my day is going doesn't mean I have to affect your day with that. Okay. And I think that there's two sides to that mentality. You can quickly go into a hide behind type of mentality where behind closed doors, my life is miserable. I'm depressed. I'm crying. I'm upset, but it stays behind closed doors. And when I go outside, I have this smile and I'm on the red carpet and everything is fabulous. And while you should be living a positive life, that it doesn't mean that you have to lie or hide what's really going on in your home or your heart, really in your heart. Right. And so when my heart changed to, I realized I needed to not be living behind these doors, and that's happened all throughout my life. So when my kids were little, like little, they're now 18 and 16, 19 and 16. But when my kids were little, I remember thinking I was the worst mom, the worst toddler mom. Like our home was always a disaster. We're always fighting. So remember, I'm an only child.
Okay.
So my imaginary sister, like she and I never fought, right? Like it was great and all the things. So when my boys started to fight, I was like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with them? Like, this is awful. I wanted 2 kids so they could have a playmate and they're fighting and what is going on? And I remember thinking it's me. I'm a bad mom. They wouldn't be fighting if I wasn't doing something wrong. Our house would be better. Our house would be cleaner. Like lies. And I believed the lies. I told myself the lies, like just believed all the lies.
You froze. I'm not sure what happened.
Yes.
There you are.
Can you hear me?
Now I can. Yeah. You were frozen for a second. No, you keep freezing. I don't know what's going on.
It might be my Wi-Fi because sometimes the neighborhood goes out.
Ah, gotcha.
So, okay. Are we good for now?
We're good. We're good. Yep.
Okay. All right. So, basically I broke down in this one small group session and it's all just moms of young. And then our mentor mom had raised kids to college and she had also unfortunately lost a child as a teenager in a skiing accident. And she's still just most amazing, has so much love for the Lord and such amazing testimony, but then also pouring into us young moms at the time. And I broke down. I was like, I can't do it. Everybody's house is clean and nobody loses their patience with their kids. And I'm just like bawling.
Oh,
and I was like, no, like I go to Bible study and their house is clean. I go over for a mom's night out and their house is clean. And she looked me dead in the face and she goes, honey, they knew you were coming. and so like in that moment, it broke that lie, that lie that I thought everybody's house was clean all the time.
Right.
Everything was perfect all the time. And so that when one lie was shattered and then some more lies got shattered. And then I started realizing I'm like, I've got to start replacing these lies with truths because I need to realize that I'm not what I've believed and created myself to be. And so in that moment, and that was goodness, like I said, 13 years ago, well, more 15 something years ago. And that was when I realized I wanted women to connect together, to build each other up, to lift each other up, to realize that you're not alone. This sounds cheesy, but no woman left behind.
Right.
And so like, because I'm like, no, like I'm not, and like, come on, like we're gonna lock arms, we're gonna partner up. I'll drag you out of the lies of the enemy. Right. And something that for me was, I still get attacked, right? I still will have those lies. I still have those moments and I'm human. And so I have to come out of that. But what kind of started that was I didn't think that I was, that Satan would target me because I was already saved, right? Like I was already a child of God. So
right.
why would he bother? Right.
Right.
I had already questioned that I could lose my faith. And when I was taught that that's not true, then I was like, well, why would he bother? And during that same time, somebody taught me the verse about the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Well, he can't steal my salvation, but he can steal my joy, and he can destroy the testimony I would have for others.
Yes.
And in that moment, I was like, okay, you're not stealing crap from me anymore. like you're not stealing my joy. I have a long life ahead. I have a long testimony ahead. I have a lot of stories. I have a lot of life. And I wanted to move forward with this whole, hey, he's not stealing my joy, and he's not stealing my friends and the things that could become of their life and their testimony in their future. So that kind of is what started me even more so being a true encourager of women versus just happy cheerleader trying to hide what was happening behind me,
Right. Yeah.
And so that is something like, I feel like as women, we need to empower other women. And in that same time that when I'm down, you can lift me up, I can empower you. And when I can't take it anymore, you can empower me. And we like yin yang, yo, whatever off of each other.
Right.
And continue to support. And then it becomes this domino trickle effect where we're grabbing other women along with us.
Yes.
And so it's been a big part, like I still have a lot of stuff, and I'm still unpacking things and whatnot. So I'll kind of just stop there and let you.
Well, and the thing that I love that you said too, because you're still unpacking things, right? But the thing is you're not letting them stay in you. And I think that's a big thing that we do. And I believe men do this too a lot. I'm a true advocate for mental health. I'm a true advocate for counseling and mentorship and all that, because I feel like we keep everything inside because of the shame of the things that we've done or gone through, whether it's something that we did or it happened to us. And to keep that inside, and then it just, like you said, then it festers, and then you're like, well, everybody else doesn't, nobody else has that, nobody else had that happen, and they live, and especially in our social media world now, you see all the highlight reels of life. I can imagine back in the day when you said you used to go to the mom's houses 16 years ago and it was all clean and everything like that. Now imagine all these people on social media looking at the beach and this and that, and everything is grand. And then that person is hiding behind all of that, where I watch you and Jason and your life. I mean, yeah, it's great. I see it. I see the motorcycles, the boys riding, the college, the pool, the sunsets, but I also see your real life too. You show us, right? You're like, yeah, somebody was, I think just not too long ago, somebody must have said some not very nice things about you. And, but you share that out loud. And I love that about you, because you don't keep it to yourself. And I said this before we started, that, we go through struggles, and everybody goes through struggles. I don't care who you are, you've been through some struggles, but to keep those struggles that we've gotten to a strength to ourselves is wrong, because we don't know who's at home laying in bed today that is like feeling like you did, with all the moms that had everything perfect and their house is perfect and this and that, and they're at home just laying in bed going, I can't even pick up a pair of shoes right now because I feel so defeated. But then they're like, well, wait, Amber felt defeated. Amber felt that way. And then she reached out and she found out that no, those people knew you were coming over. It's the same thing, right? My house is going to be immaculate if I know people are coming over, So I think that us sharing our stories out loud is so important. And that's what I've been doing, just like, here I am, this is me, this is what's happened, whether it's, my addiction, my domestic violence, living in an alcoholic home, all of that. I'm going to share it out loud just because one person might hear it that day and know that they can get through the struggle, to get to a strength.
Well, and if you can touch one person then that one person, how many people can they touch? I mean, gosh, that's evident just in the business that we're in, like I reached out to one person and I reached out to a lot, but the one person that I reached out to then turned into 20,000 people,
Right.
so like, you never know what your act in something is going to, move forward. I'll kind of share this story. Like when, I don't know, the boys were probably toddlers then too. I think they were probably like 6, like ish, like 8 and 6, something like that. We were involved in a small church that was like a church plant. And I was very involved in the women's ministry there and other things. And they had asked me to be a part of a cardboard testimony. So like you write like just words, right? Just single words of your testimony. And I'm very much like, I'm not necessarily a procrastinator. I am in some things, but stuff like that, I'm like, I'm gonna get it done. My board is ready because I don't want to stress on it. Right. And so I had prayed about it and I wrote my words and then the bottom, there was like a big blank space at the bottom because I just didn't really write it proportionately. And so I really didn't think about that. I didn't dwell on it, whatever. And I flipped it over and I wrote, where he had changed my life on those things and what he had done. And I wish I had thought about that. I would have like pulled up the picture, but, in that, and this is where God knows me because he knows I would have had massive anxiety and would have stressed for a week. I wouldn't have slept. The night before, I looked at that board and that blank spot looked bigger than it had ever looked. And he gave me the word. And I was like, nope, I'm not doing that. I'm not admitting that out loud. I'm not putting it out there. And I called one of my best girlfriends, wisdom counselor type person. I called her and I read it to her, as that was before cell phone cameras. And I called it and I read it to her. And I said, I'm not supposed to put this word, right? Like, that's just me overthinking this, right? Like, I'm not supposed to put that word. And she goes, oh, friend. She goes, I wish I could tell you you're not supposed to put that word, but I'm pretty sure you're supposed to put that word. And I dreaded like I wrote it and didn't sleep. And I did the cardboard testimony. And I wish I could remember all the things, but one of the word was abortion. And so after the fact, and then on the back and the bottom was redeemed and forgiven. And afterwards, a woman who I highly look up to, who I've always thought like had all together, adult children, all the things. She walks up to me, she grabbed my arms and she said, that could have been my testimony. I've never shared it with anybody. Thank you so much. And I'm like bawling because that was God, right? I was like, you were supposed to share that word. And now he knew that I would continue to stress on what are people thinking about me now? And so he allowed that woman to come up to me and share with me so that I was okay moving forward with, I wasn't like, oh, it wasn't God, that was the devil. And now I'm because I would do that kind of thing. So, and sometimes we don't always know from God. Like I do think some things I'll never know this side of heaven, but there are moments where he shows up to relieve my over worry.
Yes.
So, but, and that's the thing is, really making sure that when you're in God's truth, when you're in his word, who are you listening to? Who is surrounding you, and who are your people that you call? Right. Because had I called somebody that was more concerned with the world than of the word, they would have said, yeah, I don't think you're supposed to put that. And it would have stopped my testimony.
Right.
So.
And I'm sure with that, it's so funny because Cheryl Crone and we always talk about when amazing things like that happen. We used to always say like, and then the weirdest thing happened. And now we're like, It's not weird at all. It's amazing because we know it's God, right? And we have to,
and then God.
yeah, exactly. And so I think about that when you just shared that, because for you, he was like, I'm going to heal you from this right now, right? He's like, I'm going to show you, don't be ashamed of it. You know, we should never be ashamed of what, unfortunately, things that we've done, things that we've been through, but he is our redeemer. And I love that that lady came and he had her come and say that to you, because that definitely had to be like a life changer for you, because I can relate. Okay. I've had an abortion too, so I can totally relate. And I've never said it before until on here, except in my book. And so I can relate to that, because for years, and you know, like when I lost my 6.5-month-old son to SIDS, you know, the guilt of thinking to myself, like, it's my fault because I had that abortion so many years ago, you know, and I lived with that for a long time until I knew that no, it wasn't. And I am forgiven. And I was at a time in my life that it just wasn't, I just wasn't in a good place in my life at the time, you know? And so to know that he's such a redeemer, and that's what, but we have to pay attention to those things, you know? And that's where that comes from. And I think that a lot of what, like you're talking about is, throughout the times, is learning the tools to have, you know, when we're going through these struggles, to know that there's tools that we have to have, like in this little toolbox over here, that we can grab those tools and use them. You know, I know you don't get up every day and everything's just like happy, happy, joy, joy, here we go. I mean, hopefully it is, but you could jump on social media or something and go whoosh quick. But if you have those tools, and know, you know, who you are in Christ, especially, you know, that's a huge difference, I think. And I think that people just need to, whether, and I always say this on here because, you know, I don't tell anybody what they should believe, their faith or anything like that. So I always say, you know, whatever you believe, whether it's God and the universe or whatever, if you have something, you know, everybody knows it's God. For me, God 100% saved my life. And, you know, so just having those tools to use, you know, what do you do in the morning, Amber, if you don't mind sharing a little bit of like maybe your morning routines?
So, I will tell you, I'm always a work in progress.
Mm-hmm.
And while there for a while, I was constant, like my first go-to was reading my devotional or getting straight into the word. I have slacked from that. And I heard somebody say the other day, don't roll and scroll. And that is so what I do. I roll over, I grab my phone, I put my glasses on, and I, you know, and I'm a work in progress. And so I'm working on that part of me, because I did this year, I've made a lot of mindset changes and a lot of changes to see different results in myself and my health and my mental health, physical health, my business, all the things. And one of those for me was cutting things out or removing things that don't bring me joy. Because I was realizing I'm kind of going into this like toxicity type place. And so there's like some message threads and some other things that they just weren't healthy for me. And so I left those, like they don't bring me joy. And I don't need to be a part of that. Unfollowing on social media. If somebody's not really a friend, like don't, you know, so because again, the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And for me, he's always tried to steal my joy. And so when I catch myself falling into that, then I'm like, okay, what do I need to do to fix that or to change that? So I am a work in progress. I am working on not rolling and scrolling and getting back into devotionals or straight into the word first thing. So I'm working on that. And then after that time in the morning, then I get up and do my morning routine, take my vitamins, do my thing. And then I usually spend about 30 minutes to an hour in my business, just in nurturing and growing my business. And then, and I do let our life, chaos is such a weird word. But it's not chaos in a bad way. It's just, we're not super scheduled. Just because of our life. Like my oldest is now out of the house. My youngest does online private school. it's whenever he wants to kind of deal. Plus he trains at the dirt bike track 3 or more times a week. My husband and I are both home full time. So we're not super scheduled. So I kind of do my life in nooks and crannies. And then sometimes, and I do have a list every day, right? Because I have to hone myself back in. And sometimes at the end of the day, I'm like at my list, I'm like, oh, I got to go get this done. Like sometimes I do things throughout the day, and sometimes the day gets away from me, and I live and enjoy my life. And, you know, I'm like, oh, I spent an hour longer in the pool than I was gonna, you know, or just something like that, or with my husband, or yeah, we ended up going to lunch and that wasn't on the plan today, or, you know, things like that. So, but at the same time, I have the list to keep me grounded. Like I do my to-do list usually the day before. But I do that to keep me grounded so I don't get too lackadaisical and you know, because if there's not some sort of structure, then I'm all over the place.
Oh, trust me. I'll be at the end of the day being like, I was so busy, and then I'm like, but I got nothing done because it was just busyness. So I just was thinking of something that we were talking about. Oh, talking about like blocking out those noises from the outside. The you know, there's so much out there, and there's a lot. I mean, there's so much negativity out there, but there's so much positivity out there. And I think that knowing, you know, like you said, you know, you've deleted people, you've done this. Well, if they're not really doing anything for my life, then I've learned that over the last year too. I've really been working on me and detachment, which has been really, really hard for me because I'm very empathetic. I'm very, oh, I can help them so much, you know, but then they're not willing to do any work with it. So I've had to learn that, you know, and I think that's very important for people to know that it's okay. It's okay if somebody that was like there, and now for some reason things have transpired and we've had to distance ourselves. It doesn't necessarily mean that we don't love that person still or anything like that, but that distance in order to help us.
Yeah. And I will say on that is do all of that in prayer, like very much in prayer, or very much in time meditation. With sometimes the 24-hour rule needs to become a 30-day rule. Like it just depends. Like don't react out of reaction, right? Like, oh, this person, this, and I'm tired of their posts, so I'm just going to delete them, or they're out of my life. Like really reflect on that. Do you just need to unfollow them for a little bit? Do you need to give them their space, reassess in 30 days? And I say that for me because I could very much be, well, you're not, like, you're out, like, you know, but maybe God doesn't want them to be out of my life just yet. And that's a learning lesson right there. You know, but he also does not want us to continually be hurt. That is something I learned, you know, with my whole abandonment issues with my real dad. Yes, we are supposed to forgive. And I think a lot of times that gets, what's the word? The interpretation of that verse, or there's several verses in the Bible about forgiveness. It gets misinterpreted a lot. And then, you know, people want to leave with, well, you're just supposed to keep forgiving and keep forgiving and keep forgiving. I'm like, yes, but I'm not supposed to keep getting crapped on. Like there is a difference. There's a difference in forgiving and releasing out of your life and moving forward, and allowing them to continuously steal the joy and the things or the whatever from you. And it took a long time to understand that difference and to learn that. And so definitely forgiveness is something I learned a long time ago, is that forgiveness is an act that God asks of us from our heart. It does not, it's for us, it's not for them. So like, Tammy, if you hurt me, but we never spoke again, me forgiving you is an obedient act in my own heart for me and my peace. Not, well, I need you to know I forgive you, and I need to know what you think of that. Like, that's not how that works.
Right. And you are so right. So many people misinterpret that. They're like, well, I'm never going to forgive them. And, they'll never know. And that's okay. They don't need to know. But like you said, in your own heart, to protect your own peace, because I've watched, my mom was one of those. I watched for years her hold on to things from when she was like 5 years. My sister does it too, 5 years old, and just doesn't let it go. And it just, it's destroying their life, And I watched my mom for so many years, and she'd be like, even with my uncle, she'd be like, well, when Chris was 5, I'm like, he's 61 years old. He's probably over it. You know what I mean?
Let it go.
Hang on to that. And that's just what I want. That's toxic for you, to hang on to those things. But I like what you said, because, I say this about my son's, well, I call him a sperm donor, but their dad anyways. But I say this about him because, people are, I did forgive him. I mean, he bashed my head up against walls, but I never walked up to him and said to him, I forgive you for, knocking my head around. I didn't have to, but I had to forgive him in my heart, forgive him, because I look at a lot of people when I forgive them, they just don't know any better. They just don't know any different, and I think that was a big thing for me, is just really looking at people and knowing that that's all they knew, and so that forgiveness is huge for you and for them,
Oh my gosh, when I had done a study called it was by Mary Cassian, and it was called In My Father's House. And I'm really sad because I've actually referred that to a lot of people, and apparently you can't find it anymore. But yeah, I think maybe still the book, but not the study. And I did that with just a small group of women in my home, and it was huge for me. It's In My Father's House, and it's relating to God as Father. And it was about, how because he is our Father, we relate our earthly father and how they did us or treated us or didn't or whatever. And so it was like, that stigma from here to God, and what we believed and how to really relate that. But in the same time frame, in the same sense, was dealing with that relationship and all the things and the feelings and that come with how my relationship with my real dad. And one of the exercises was to write a letter. And I was like, nope, nope, I'm not doing it. I'm not writing a letter. Like, can you tell sometimes I'm a little like, even when I wasn't going to write that word on the cardboard testimony, I'm like, nope, can't make me. Because all I was thinking was, I'm going to have to mail this letter, and I don't want, I'm not, nope, I'm good. We're good how we are. Like, I don't need that. I'm good. But I did write the letter and it brought so much peace. Well, it felt good to get it all out. Right. So I wrote the letter, and it had direction, right, of forgiveness, what to say, how to this, what to address, whatever. And lots of prayer on that. And I wrote the letter. And then the next step was to burn the letter or tear the letter up. And I was like, whoo, because I was so I almost couldn't truly put how I really felt. I said, that came with a lot of prayer, because I was so scared, because I'm a people pleaser, even as somebody that completely did me wrong. I'm a people pleaser. And so I didn't want to hurt their feelings. And so I wasn't like, how do I do this, and and I just let it all out there. And then that, like, burn the letter, rip up the letter. I was like, oh, thank you. And that was the final release. Like, this is how forgiveness works. You forgive between you and Christ, and then it's released and is done, and so that was huge and healing. And even after that, oh gosh, I was supposed to mail a letter. But, sometimes we don't know God's plan. Right. Until we are obedient.
Exactly.
And then it comes back. Yeah. I mean, like, there's a lot, I have a lot of God stories and a lot of things where, like, even like prompted to give like our last $100, and I was like, but God, like, that's it. That's all we have left. Like, what are we going to do? And then boom, somebody comes in and gives us
Yeah.
$200. Like
Yeah.
but God works that way. He doesn't ask you or call you because you know the outcome. He asks or call you because he knows
Yes.
the outcome. And he
Yes.
uses us to be the hands and feet. And you can't be the hands and feet if you're not obedient.
Right. Right. And that's so true. I had that happen actually with my podcast, because I started it as a blog, and it was going to be, I didn't know what it was going to be called. I knew that I was going to start a blog, and I was at an overdose awareness event, and we all walked past a casket, and they had needles and bottles of pills in there and stuff like that. And it was August of 2019. And they were talking about who was going to share their stories the next day that had lost children to overdoses. And one of the ladies, she said, well, who's going to share hope? And I was like, hope. I love that word. Hope is such a little word, but it's such a big word. So I'm driving home, and I'm like helping other people. And I heard God go, evolve. And I'm like, no, helping other people. So like, I'm like, evolve. And it kept going. And I'm like, no, I don't want evolve. I just don't want that word. And I pull in my driveway, and I call my good friend. I'm like, hey, Lori, I said, I know what I'm going to call my blog. And she's like, great. I can't wait for people to hear how you evolved. And right then I was like, okay, I guess if I wasn't listening, he was making sure that I was listening. Right. And so that's the whole thing. I want to reflect a little bit on that letter, because I think that's huge. I talk to people about that a lot. If I'm talking to somebody about something they're going through, and they're like, well, I can't talk to that person. I'm like, write a letter, just write it all down. Right. And the writing down, and like, I always tell them the same thing. I'm like, crumble it up, burn it, throw it in the ocean, whatever you got to do, just get it written down. And that healing process is so huge, and to know that you can burn it afterwards. That's kind of a nice thing to know ahead of time too, because you can write all the things.
Been great.
Yeah. That's true. So
I didn't read ahead.
Right, exactly. So yeah, it's I loved this interview with you. I think it's been great. I think that people hearing just some different things of, not that we went through like deep struggles that you've been through, but struggles that you've been through. But I feel like with this interview, we've done a lot of solutions for people, and I think that's important, because, we can hear people's stories and everything like that, but then, well, how'd you get through it? What did you do? And I think that's huge, that you've been healing yourself for a long time, and with God. I know that you have a great husband that's very supportive through, and you are very supportive to him. I love your guys's, your marriage out loud, I guess would be a way to say it. It's just, it's joyful to see, and I know that, I'm sure that you have your struggles too.
Not easy.
No, not easy. And I know, like, like I said, I love that you do share who you guys are, the ups, the downs, the real life, and I think that's just important. And to, whenever I see something that if you are going through a struggle, you guys, if you follow Amber, you should, Amber Marsh Mainquist. But when you go through a struggle, you always, even if you post something about it, you have a solution in there. And I think that's important, that people need to know that there are solutions, but you have to reach out and figure out, the best way to get through those times.
Well, and I'll touch on that really fast, because that is something like, it is a hard, when you're really social media, like in my business, I use social media as a massive platform for my business. But I also like to show all the sides, but there is a very fine line, because we don't want to just show the highlight reel,
Right.
But we don't want to look like negative Nancy's either. Sorry, Nancy. But like, there is a place, and you can go too far one way or the other, like, oh, she's so happy all the time, or, oh my gosh, like all the drama. And so, you try to share both. Like, I know some people are like, no, I don't like to share negative until it has a solution, until it's done. And I'm like, but people, like when I say I make a post, like I don't share what's going on in my home, but I'll post parenting is hard. Like,
Right.
like
Right.
pray for me today, something
Right.
like that.
Yeah.
And some people are like, oh, you shouldn't put out there about your, and I'm like, but I didn't. But at the same time, I had 100 moms go, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Like,
Yes.
so there is being relatable,
Yes.
and there's that fine line of that, and I'm still learning it. But I will say, so I shared something, and this might have been what you were talking about earlier, but I shared something the other day about you can't believe everything you read on Google and YouTube and social media and whatever. And that wasn't about us. Like, and a lot of people, some people might, oh, what's going on? I'm like, it's not about us. It absolutely was not about us. It's about, in the motocross industry, some things going on. And I'm like, you know what? It doesn't, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Like, stop spreading negativity, stop spreading rumors. We know, because we've become successful in our business, we know that the more successful people become, the more hate is sometimes drawn in. And so you can't believe everything you read and hear,
Right.
and so that was what that was. And, and then sometimes, yeah, it is about me when I'm like, listen, I'm a friend, I'm a human, I'm a person. If I do something wrong, please tell me. I'm not perfect, and so like I'll make, posts like that, because I'm like, I screwed up. I'm not going to tell the world how I screwed up. That's not their business.
Right.
But it's being relatable in the sense of, I screwed up, you screw up, we all screw up,
Right.
but we have to be the human friend that calls and says, hey, Tammy, you hurt my feelings.
Right.
Like, because if not, you don't know that you hurt my feelings. You don't know that your comment to me, which you never have. But you don't know
Right.
until I tell you.
Yes.
And so I think that is something that we all have to remember. Being on social media, people think, oh, I know, she knew what she meant. She knew what she said. She did it on purpose.
Yep.
No, she's human, and sometimes a dumbass. Like,
right. No, right. No, it's true. And it's funny that you said that too. Like, sometimes I'll post things and I'll just be like, it's just what's on my heart. And it's nothing to do with me. And then I'll get messages like, oh my gosh, are you okay? Who's saying something to you? And I was like, it really had nothing to do with me. It's just life in general, just be a nice person, but yeah. And I think, like you just said, the relatable part, I think we all need to be relatable, because people can look at the highlight reels and everything and think, oh, they're just perfect. They never have anything go wrong. But when they see that, wait a minute, Amber had that go on, you know what I mean? Or Tammy had that go on. You get more people that can relate to you. And that's what we want to be, is relatable in this world. I just want to be the light in the world. That's all I want to be, but I don't want to be a light that people think she's always shining bright. It's always rainbows and unicorns in her world, because that's a lie. And I don't lie about things like that, and I think that being factual with people, like I told you earlier, Trent Shelton, his thing is stuck with me. Like, my transparency will lead to someone else's transformation. So to know, what we go through, but we've gotten to a strength through it, and we've learned how to navigate life differently through the thing, So,
absolutely.
Well, I really appreciate you getting on here with me today.
It's been fun. So fun.
It's been so fun. I can't wait to see you. October, I think I'll see you.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Well, yeah, still qualifying, but so
yes. Well, I'm almost there. With our motocross schedule and all that, I think it might just be me. So
yeah, I'm sure. Oh yeah, you guys got all that. That's a lot that you have.
Tag team parenting.
Yeah, exactly. Well, once again, I want to thank you, Amber, for getting on here with me. I appreciate you coming on here and just sharing, some of your struggles with us, with some of the strength that you've gotten through them, and letting us know that you're still a work in progress, as we all are, and I think that that's true for everybody. And if you don't think that you're a work in progress, we probably need to go look in the mirror, because you probably do have a little work to do still. So I just want to thank you so much for getting on here. I want to thank everybody for tuning into Hope. Leave your comments, share this with somebody that's struggling with, with self-esteem issues or things like that, or not thinking they're worthy, or that, they're not the best mom in the world, because they probably are. They just haven't realized it yet. So thank you once again, Amber, and you guys all have a great day. Thanks.
Thank you for having me.